There is a conversation that most people are never willing to have. It lives in the uncomfortable space between who we wish the world was and who the world has proven itself to be. It is the conversation about what it actually costs to be a good person, not in theory, not in a philosophy classroom, but in real life, among real people, in a world that has learned over centuries how to feed off those who refuse to stop caring. We celebrate goodness. We reward it with applause and admiration and monuments. We tell our children to be kind, to be honest, to be generous. And yet, nobody warns them about the predators who have been watching, patiently, for exactly that kind of person to walk through the door. Dark psychology is not a myth. It is not a concept invented by cynics to justify cruelty. It is the study of how human beings weaponize the very traits that make others human. Empathy becomes a leash. Generosity becomes an ATM. Patience becomes a punching bag. And goodness, genuine goodness, becomes the most expensive commodity a person can possess. Let us begin with something most people already know, but few are willing to say out loud. Nice people finish last. Not because they are stupid, not because they lack ability, but because they have been conditioned to believe that if they give enough, forgive enough, and tolerate enough, the world will eventually meet them with the same warmth they pour out. That belief is not just naive. In the hands of the wrong person, it is lethal. The manipulator does not announce himself. He does not walk into your life wearing a sign that reads, "I intend to use you." He arrives as a friend, a lover, a colleague, sometimes even a family member. He studies you first. He learns what you value, what you fear, and most importantly, what makes you feel responsible for the pain of others. Then he uses all of it. Systematically, patiently, with a smile. This is what dark psychology tells us about the architecture of manipulation. It is not random. It is not impulsive. It is engineered. The narcissist who isolates you from your friends does so gradually that by the time you notice, you have already defended him to everyone who tried to warn you. The sociopath who borrows money never asks for too much at once. He builds a pattern of small requests until the debt of loyalty feels greater than any dollar amount. The gaslighter does not make you doubt yourself in one conversation. He does it across months, across years, one twisted sentence at a time, until your own perception of reality feels unreliable. And who are the targets? Not the selfish, not the suspicious. The targets are the givers, the fixers, the people who were taught that abandoning someone in pain is a moral failure, the people who confuse endurance with strength and suffering with virtue. Good people, decent people, the very people we claim to admire. Here is the dark truth at the center of all of this. Goodness without awareness is not virtue. It is vulnerability. A surgeon without knowledge of infection does not save lives through good intentions alone. And a good person without knowledge of manipulation does not protect others through kindness alone. They simply become the most available resource in the room for those who have decided that people are resources. We must talk about the emotional cost. When a manipulator finishes with you, they do not leave you merely financially poorer or socially isolated, though those things often happen too. They leave you doubting the parts of yourself you were most proud of. Your compassion begins to feel like a flaw. Your forgiveness begins to feel like stupidity. Your trust begins to feel like the weapon that was used against you. And the cruelest irony of dark psychology is this. The predator walks away intact, often to their next target, while the victim is left rebuilding a relationship with their own character. That is the cost of goodness unprotected, not just what is taken from you, but what you begin to take from yourself. So what do we do with this? Do we become cold? Do we trade our empathy for armor and decide that the world does not deserve what we carry? Some people make that choice, and while it protects them from exploitation, it also costs them something irreplaceable: Because a life without the willingness to trust, to love, to extend yourself toward another human being is its own kind of prison. The answer is not coldness. The answer is clarity. Dark psychology does not win because good people are weak. It wins because good people are uninformed. The moment you understand how manipulation works, the moment you recognize the patterns, the love bombing followed by withdrawal, the guilt that arrives on schedule, the apology that changes nothing, the generosity that always comes with a price, that is the moment the mechanism loses its power. You cannot be gaslit if you understand gaslighting. You cannot be guilt-tripped by someone whose guilt trips you have learned to identify. Knowledge is not cynicism. Knowledge is the armor that allows you to remain good without being consumed. You are allowed to have boundaries, not because you are selfish, but because a person without boundaries is not generous. They are simply undefended. You are allowed to walk away from people who cost more than they contribute. Not because you have stopped caring about human beings, but because you have started caring about this one, yourself. You are allowed to take your own goodness seriously enough to protect it. The world needs good people, desperately, but it needs them alive, it needs them whole, it needs them clear-eyed and grounded and impossible to exhaust. Because the darkness in human behavior does not shrink in the presence of suffering saints. It shrinks in the presence of people who understand it fully and refuse to be moved by it. The cost of goodness is real. It is paid in trust misplaced, in energy drained, in years given to people who never intended to give anything back. But the cost of ignorance is greater. It is paid not just once, but repeatedly, in every relationship where you allowed someone to redefine you as a source rather than a person. Know the darkness, not to become it, but to stand in front of it without flinching. To say, I see exactly what you are doing. I understand the mechanism, and it will not work on me. That is not the end of goodness. That is goodness fully grown.